your own people, that dollar will circulate as it did in Tulsa, Oklahoma when we weren't allowed to. So the beginning of justice is education and us being left alone when it comes to building our own economy.
The next question, Brother Nate talked earlier about some incidences and experiences he's had with the abuse of police authority and police brutality in America. And as black folks, we all kind of know this is something that's very real. So the next question that we want to ask is, how do we stop it? You know, not too long ago, we saw someone come into one of our churches and literally murder 9 of us, right? And we've seen this happen over and over again. How do we stop it? And if we can get Brother Nate, Sister Amethyst, and Dr. Kringle to answer that question. How do we stop it?
You know, definitely. What's really important, what I experience with my situations, is that we have to really be proactive. I think one of our issues is that we react a lot, but we need to be very strategic in being proactive on how we move forward. So what I'm teaching everybody who's willing is how to know their rights. We have documents. I partner with lawyers all over Southern California. Your right to remain silent, your right to an attorney. Knowing your rights will, at least in being proactive, will prevent things from happening. In my situation, when I questioned officers, I was literally standing up for what was right. When I was thrown to the ground and beat, I could have literally been killed. Now, how would that have felt to my mother, to my family and parents? So in that understanding, what we can begin to do is really be strategic. I sat in trial for 9 hours a day, and I had to see this DA talk about me and create all of these lines about me. I sat in front of an officer while the officer said that I tried to use my handcuffs that they put on me as a weapon to beat him. That I tried to fight him, that he didn't know if I had a gun or a weapon. And we have to understand this is all based on the justice system. This is based off the law. So we can be as emotional as we want to be, but we have to begin to channel that emotion to be really strategic. If we want to play the game, we really have to get ready and prepare our minds to play the game. Like my brother said earlier, it's all based on economics. It's based off money. So in the way this whole system is working, my whole solution is being ready and being strategic. If we inspire young people to understand how to interact when officers approach them, if they know their rights, we can begin to move and build. In that sense, not only do you know your rights, you understand your power. What happens is officers are there to make you feel inferior. They're there to make you feel like you don't know your rights, and they're not going to tell you your rights. So don't assume that the officer is there to make them be there for you. They weren't meant to protect and serve us. Right. They were never here for our community. They're here to protect the elites, the 1%. So we're in a space where we have to be more aware and understand that. So that's the first step in beginning to be proactive in teaching, not only our youth, teaching millennials, teaching everybody who has any type of interaction with the police, that you need to know your rights. If you're pulled over, or if you have any situation, I have the right to remain silent. I have the right to an attorney. And once it gets to an issue when you're in court, you have the power to use your intelligence and use your mind to beat them at their own game. And so that's really what's powerful, and at least beginning to be proactive and moving forward. There's all other types of solutions, but that's the one I'm focused on, and that's the one I'm going to be building.
I'm gonna go with this with the perspective of the law. One day, I will be a United States Senator. And the laws that I will choose to change will be two. One of rubber bullets, and one that is already taking place, which is body cameras for police officers. Rubber bullets have been shown and proven that they have the same impact as a gun, but your life will not be at risk. Police officers all over this country can use rubber bullets in order, and if they need to shoot, because apparently they need to, when they need to shoot somebody or whatever they need to do, that these bullets will not cause casualties of life. And so that's one thing I'm very interested in, and I urge everybody in this room to look up how a rubber bullet works and how the impact is on the human body. Because it can lay somebody out. You will be laid out, but you will not be dead. And that will keep a lot of our sons, a lot of our daughters from being dead on the concrete. Another thing that I urge our young generation and us, well, my generation, is to go into the courthouse. The courthouse is open to the public. You can go in and see trials. You can go in and see people get prosecuted for the smallest crimes of misdemeanors and felonies or misconduct with the police. Going into the courtrooms and seeing how the laws work and seeing how people twist and change things and make sure that we're locked up for 17 years when we should have only got community service. That's what we need to know. You have to educate yourself, and like this brother over here said, proactive. Education is first. We can't do anything without the foundation of education. And once we educate ourselves with how the laws work, how people are using and abusing them to make sure that we are locked up, then we'll know how to move forward. Because police are not the end all to be all. We don't need to be scared of them. We do have rights. And just like the NAACP, in a few months, they're going to do a youth program called Law Day, and they're going over Miranda rights with kids, because kids need to know what are the things that they're hearing on TV. All you know is you can remain silent. A lot of people, that's all they know. They don't know all of their rights. I plead the fifth. A lot of y'all know that in here. We hear that on TV all the time. But programs such as those help our young people to understand and know the laws that they are under. So that would be the things I would go towards.
Again, keep in mind that even when we talk about, and I appreciate everything that's been said, if I understand correctly, keep in mind that what we're talking about is a larger issue than police violence. And so you can't solve it in the abstract. We remember that we're talking about justice. Justice is what is due a person and a people, what is rightfully their own. The sacred Hosea says that doing justice is breath to the nose. How clear is that when we deal with police violence? Without justice, we can't even breathe. The sacred Hosea of ancient Egypt says also the true balancing of the land lies in doing justice, and that we are compelled to bear witness to truth and set the scales of justice in their proper place among those who have no voice. And that tells us that there is no way around struggle, that the only remedy is resistance, that any strategy that does not foreground struggle against established order is not worthy of its name. And there is no way forward except across the casualty-laden battlefield for a new world and a new way to be human in the world. So there's no alternative to struggle, none whatsoever. So what we have to do is rebuild the movement. And when we rebuild the movement, we got a context for struggle. So what you need to do, actually, what we need to do, I'm already in it, but hey, let's say we, so I can feel like we're doing this together, right? You need to get in an organization. You got to be organized. By yourself, they pick you off like they've been doing. So we have to get in an organization. If you don't join it, at least support those organizations like our own and the other organizations, Black Lives Matter, the Nation, other people that are struggling against police violence, right? You got to give some support here, right? The second thing, it seems to me, is that we have to fight for changes in the way the people do policing. We need a civilian review board. Don't let them make you forget that. Police can't police the police. So every time they have a kind of investigation, they're going to get off because it's there, right? That's right. Next, we got to struggle for demilitarization of the police. The police are like soldiers. They occupy our community the same way they occupy Palestine and the way they occupy Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Let's be honest, and Haiti. They're occupation army. That's how we saw them in the 60s. They haven't changed yet. That's right. And they do what they do not because they're rogue cops, but they believe they have a right and responsibility to suppress black people who they see as menaces to white power and structure. Right? So we have to understand that when we go out, so we don't be, I'm surprised. Yeah, be surprised. You know, reason to be surprised if a baboon sits on his haunches. Be surprised if a bird starts flying backward. You understand?
Go ahead, Doc.
So I think this last point I want to make is that we need community. We need community patrol. In 1965, we put together what was called a community alert patrol, where we followed the police, took pictures, monitored them, let them know they are constantly on guard, they are constantly under observation. The camera they can turn off and restructure. The people, even if you don't go out in the street, you have to be alert to what's happening. And you have to stop talking the pathology of the dominant society about so-called black crime. It's no black crime, it's American crime. White people do crime all the time. They killed 40 million people in World War II. White people killing white people. Nobody said, why do all them white people kill all them white people? American crime is American, right?
That's right.
Keep that in mind. And don't confuse yourself with the thugs that menace you. Don't confuse yourself. They're not even identifying. They had consciousness, and consciousness is more than just being aware. It's acceptance and practice. There's a certain practice to being black. You can't just declare I'm black.
Go ahead, Doc.
So the final thing is this, get into this movement, build this movement, and you have 5 things. Education, mobilization, organization, confrontation, and then transformation.
That's right.
Put a footnote on that. We have to remember that police are not in the hood to stop crime. They're in the hood to contain crime to the ghetto, so it doesn't get into white society and mess up their little world.
Go ahead.
So what bothers me, brothers and sisters, and maybe you feel the same way, but every time that we see a videotape of one of these brothers being killed, or like here, and when the California Highway Patrol
That's right.
was beating our sister Marlene on the highway, that was a black man filming that. When that Confederate cracker in McKinney, Texas had his knees in the back of Sister Desiree, she's 14 years old, that was a black man filming that.
Wow.
And I don't know about y'all, but I'm just tired of camera cowards.
Go ahead.
At a certain point, we got to put that thing on FaceTime and say, look, this is to my mama,
Come on.
this to my wife,
Come on.
this to my children. This might be the last message, but I want y'all to know I love you, but I'll be damned if I'm going to let this go down like it's going down. And when we get in where we fit in, and we regulate the affairs, and if someone's trying to kill one of ours, then we take one of theirs.
That's right. That's right.
Then I guarantee you they'll stop killing us.
Go ahead.
So that's the mathematics, but it's not going to happen until, as Brother Matt and Dr. Karenga said, until there's an education. And we have to graduate, brothers and sisters, out of having sympathy for one another to having empathy for one another.
That's beautiful.
See, sympathy means that I don't like that you feel bad. But when you got empathy, that means when something goes wrong with you, I feel the same thing you feel.
Right.
And whenever we feel what each other feels, then when we see that sister on the highway in California being beat, that's our mother.
That's right.
That's our sister.
Come on.
When we see that little sister in McKinney, Texas being beat by the police, that's my niece.
That's right.
That's my daughter, and we will do everything in our power to eliminate any opposition from the face of the planet Earth when they're trying to take the life of one of us.
That's right.
And I guarantee you that the minute that we rise up and we kill them when they try to kill us in self-defense,
Come on.
then they're going to start dancing to a whole different tune.
That's right.
Some of the panelists talked about the need to know our rights, the need to look at the law and understand how the law can assist us in our quest for justice. Next question I want to ask any panelist who wants to answer: can we get justice in the American legal system or political system?
Go ahead, brother.
No. As it currently stands, no. We cannot get justice under the laws that are currently written. Laws are so contorted and so backwards and so written all over the place. You don't know which is up and which is down. So justice from our legal system can only be provided when Black people go and get their law degrees, and when Black people understand the laws and can sit in courtrooms and they can fight on our behalf with this contorted laws and the way the white man has written these laws. We have to be educated. That's the only way, as of now, until we flip the system on its head, that's the only way we will be able to get justice within this legal system, is to make sure that we are representing each other and that we remember the goal. Because one thing I find interesting about people who do go to law school is that once they get out, they go right into a corporate firm and making all this money. And they're so focused on making their money and getting their house and having their 2.2 kids with the dog and all this other stuff, the American dream, but they forget the mission. We are soldiers in a long-standing war. We should all go into this or go into our fields of study understanding that we are soldiers ready to bring justice to every single Black person that's on this planet. And so for example, when I do go to law school and I obtain my law degree, I'm not doing it for them.
Come on.
I'm not going into no corporation helping you go through contracts and all that stuff to make me a little change.
Come on.
I'm going in there to change. Public defense, public works. We the ones getting locked up, so why are we not in here protecting our own?
Come on. Come
So
on.
that's something that we need to do. We have to be educated in the law and ready to fight for our own. So that's my answer.
What she said about representation. Last year, when Mike Brown's killer was on trial, Black people had a problem with the fact that there was 0 Black people on his jury. Now, speaking to the fact of representation, what do we do when we get a letter that says we have jury duty? We tend to throw it away, or we tend to make an excuse so we don't have to go. That doesn't happen. He doesn't get tried with an all-white jury in a state that I think is 70% Black if we show up for jury duty. Do I think that we can get justice in this American legal system? No. But there are certain ways that we can help ourselves. And that's one of them, is to take responsibility for our people when we get these letters to show up to jury duty, because of course they don't tell you what you're gonna be on a jury for, what you're gonna potentially be on a jury for. But for all you know, that could be the next case. Then people that was on the jury for Officer Darren, they didn't know when they signed up and showed up that that's the case that they were gonna have. So we never know. Recently you had a judge throw out a jury completely because there was 0 Black people on it, which is the right thing to do. He was in his every right to do that, and I admire that man for that. But why was there an all-white jury? You know what I mean? We have to show up. That's just a challenge to us to represent each other and represent ourselves.
Beautiful points. Also, brothers and sisters, there was a meeting held in 1940 with A. Philip Randolph and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And at the meeting, A. Philip Randolph was representing Black people suffering in labor. And at the end of the day, when the list was made, President Roosevelt said, I agree with everything that you all have presented to me. Now make me do it.
Right.
Did y'all hear me?
Yeah.
I agree with everything that you say. Now make me do it. Now that was not just the individual psychology of one white man in power. That is the general psychology of all of them that are in power.
That's right.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he said this, he said, even the devil will do good under the gun.
That's right.
Now this doesn't mean that we need to go into positions of power, Dr. Reagan, and put pistols to the head of people that make decisions.
Yeah.
But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad went further and said this. He said, our unity, he didn't say more powerful than a 9mm.
Come on.
Or a Desert Eagle, or AK-47, or SK. He said, our unity is more powerful than a nuclear or an atomic bomb. So even though everyone agrees that we will not get justice under this justice system because of all the loopholes in it, if we stand united and put that gun to the head of the Franklin Delano Roosevelt-minded white people that are in power, then we can make them do it.
That's right.
So it is possible if we are willing to be united.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said, fine, saying quickly. It's clear that in as the established order, we can't get justice from it without struggle. We have to transform it so that it is no longer as it is. But while we're transforming it, we have to struggle against it, right? Sometimes people have maximum and then they have minimum. Some people believe you can't win it all. Some people believe we can do it right now. It's a long and difficult struggle. And as Cabral said, therefore we should mask no difficulties, tell no lie, and claim no easy victories. But what has been said is so, that the first thing we have to do is struggle against what exists. The second thing we have to do is build an operational unity. Not total unity, just an operational unity that leads to the kind of struggle everyone's been talking about. And operational unity is a concept we advanced in the 60s, unity in diversity, unity without uniformity, but unity on common ground. And our oppression and our search for a new future in which we can stand and walk as African people without penalty, without punishment, without death in the street, without warning, where we can raise our children in security, and where we can speak our own special culture truth and make our own unique contribution to the forward flow of human history. We need that, but we can only get it by struggling. So you have to be active. I stay away from pathological conversation like we ain't doing nothing. We are doing something. And what we've got to do is build on what we're doing. So the nation has something. Build on that. Yeah. Us has something. Build on that. Black Lives Matter has something. Build on that. Yeah. And we don't need to collapse everybody into one. But we must be one in our resistance to oppression and this established order. White supremacy, racial order.
Following the same line of thinking, Dr. Kramer, you mentioned earlier that we need to struggle. We need to rebuild the movement.
Yeah.
So the question, and I want to start with you because you were there. Why does the movement need rebuilding in the first place? And what is the role of this generation in doing that kind of work? And I want to start with Dr. Kramer and any panelist that wants to answer. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you see, we have ups and downs in history. History doesn't go in a straight line. It goes in a spiral. We go further, but we twist and turn. We come back to the same place, but we're at a high level all the way. We have to see that, right? We have to see that we go in a spiral. We don't go in a straight line, and we don't go in a circle, right? So here's what happened. This is a sad tale. It's a heroic struggle in the Black Freedom Movement. The Black Freedom Movement, I mean, from 55 to 75. Usually you only hear about what is the civil rights phase of the Black Freedom Movement, and that is from 55 to 65. And then from 65 is the Black Power movement. You usually only hear about one organization. But there's no way in the world we could have pushed the world forward without all the organizations being involved and all of them contributing to transform this country. And we cannot dismiss what we did in this country. We won struggles that not only changed the character and course of this country, but expanded the realm of freedom for everybody. And people around the world and in this country borrow our moral vocabulary and our moral vision and pose our struggle as a model. Other people of color, women, gays, older people, senior citizens, disabled people, they say, like the black people. Rescue me if I'm wrong. Right? So if they praising us and we doubting us, what happened there? So we have to build on the past, right? And we have to see what went wrong. Well, when we won, we assumed that the war was over because we won some battles. That's right. We won some legal battles, but we didn't win the battle for wealth, power, and status. Wealth, power, and status. That's it. It's just like the election of Obama. Did it change your change your power? Did it change your position in life? I'm not putting Obama down because I'll lose y'all if I do. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You cannot pretend that one man's election has solved your problem. And even Obama said, quoting what Brother Minister said about Roosevelt, he said, y'all got to go out and make me because these other people pulling me. Before Obama got in office, the white people strung him around, choked him, and made him fund the banks. Not the poor people.
That's right.
The banks. So I'm saying to you, you've got to struggle. And what happened, we won and thought that winning certain battle meant winning the war. And what happened also is we had brain drain. Because once we knocked down the barriers that everybody wanted to knock down, right? They shouldn't have been there in the first place. Most of the middle class escaped to the white section of town. And when they did it, they brain drained and they also undermined the institutional capacity to solve the problems we used to solve all the time. Remember I told you crime and all these other problems, they're American. We had those, but when we were a community, we had the institutional capacity to hold them at bay and to solve them. The moment we had the brain drain and we had to run on the institutional capacity, then the problems just spiraled. And so we won, but we also lost. Because we lost a sense of community. And then people come in here and tell us about a Jonathan generation, that now y'all are, this is Obama in 207 in Selma, right? Y'all are Jonathan. Joshua. See, I got to get the Hebrew story right. In the Hebrew story, oh, I threw y'all off. I'm sorry. Okay, now, let me just say, in the biblical, in the biblical story, there's two characters, Moses and Joshua. So Moses is supposed to be the civil rights and the black power people, the black freedom movement. And the Jonathan generation is supposed to be the descendants and beneficiary. They know they're descendants, but they don't admit they're the beneficiary. And they can't relate and come and ask knowledge because the white people keep telling them that's them, this is them. All the people that rule this country are old white men. Did y'all know that? Yes. White people will bring a white man up on the stage. He can hardly walk, and they'll have you clap for him. But they'll tell you to dishonor older black people, which is anti-African and deprives you of a wealth of knowledge you could have if you in fact embraced it. Who would in the nation say Minister Farrakhan is too old to teach?
All right.
Who would say that? Or would somebody just tripped? Rescue me if I'm wrong. And who would say old Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman or any of those other greats were too old to teach?
All right.
Please, don't let our oppressor be our teacher. We are our teacher. So what we need to do for this moment is we need to stop talking this generation gap and put down the basis for our cooperation. Because in every culture, you have people coming up and people going down. People going out and people coming in. And we've got to link somehow. Put our heads and minds together and our efforts together. Because this is a long and deadly struggle. Don't you ever forget it. You might not be at war, but you're in a war. And they're showing you by killing.